Hi guys, welcome back to the Mina Does Art Stuff YouTube channel. My name is Mina and on this channel we do art stuff. So one thing I have been wanting to do for the longest time, pretty much since a few months after I started learning to use watercolours, I've been wanting to do some lightfastness testing on some of the paints that I have. And eventually I would like to do it on all of them, but for now I've started with a big chunk of the paints that I have, and specifically looking at some of the cheaper paints that I have and or the pigments that I know, or that are known to have issues as well. So it's kind of a bit of a mixed bag today. I've already started doing some of the prep last night, but it was too dark and the lighting was terrible for filming. Plus it would have been really long, so I've done some of it already. I'm going to show you how I do some of it now as well, with a few more things. And if there's any paints that I talk about or that you see in this video that you'd like to see more videos about, or like a more thorough review or something, I do pretty much have plans to do like review type videos or swatching videos and like talking a bit about the different brands of paints that I have over the coming weeks and months. But if there's any that you see that you're keen to hear about sooner, let me know in the comments so I can prioritize those videos first. Otherwise, yeah, if you're new here, thank you for joining us today. I hope you'll enjoy what you see, and feel free to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Okay, so for lightfastness testing, what I'm planning on doing is I'm painting these big wide swatches, and then I'm going to be cutting them into strips, and one strip is going to be taped up against a south-facing window, and the other strip is going to go into a dark drawer where it's going to be in the dark for the period of time, to kind of like compare how light will impact the swatches or the paint over time. And so the idea is they'll go up into the window today. Today is the 3rd of June, and then in about 3 months time we'll check in on them, and then at 6 months, and then a year, or we might check in between that as well, just to see how things are going. But like I said, I have a few different brands of paint here that I'm looking at. I have my Turner watercolors, I have some of the Winsor & Newton here, but I have some on another page as well. I have some of the Arteza watercolors. I have the 36 pan set, which I will be honest, I'm probably not going to keep, but I wanted to see how it does for lightfastness. So these are all the Arteza ones. Then we have the Magello Mission Gold Pure Pigment set, is basically this whole page, plus a couple of extra paints that I picked up as well. So that's all that page. And then this page is a mixture. It's mostly some Schminker colours, and then there's a couple of Winsor & Newton and Holbein colours on this page as well. This page has a lot of my, again, it's a mixed bag on this one. We've got some Winsor & Newton, some Lucas, some Daniel Smith, some Holbein, a couple of Sennelier, and some Shinhan paint. So it's a bit of a mixed bag here with pigments. This page is mostly pigments that I'm either curious about whether or not they fade, or they are known to fade, like Opera or Dark Sisney Violet, Prussian Blue, etc., things like that. And some of the reds. The reds are pretty known for being fading colours. So those are the ones that I've already done, and how I sort of prep the paper. So the paper I'm using is the Arteza Cold Press Expert watercolor pad. So this is the cellulose one, and it's just a fairly affordable paper that's great for this sort of purpose. And I will have all the supplies that I'm using linked down below. I won't necessarily have all the individual brands linked, but I will have a link to Jackson's where you can purchase most of these brands, and any of the ones you can't get on Jackson's, like the Arteza one, I'll have specific links for those. And yeah, the links below, some of them will be affiliate links, and all that means is that they help to support the channel, which I really appreciate when you use them. Okay, so yeah, what I did with the paper was I measured it up, and I did, because this is a 9x12 sheet, or I can't remember what it is in centimeters. It's 23 centimeters by 30 centimeters. So I split it into 5 centimeter columns, so every 10 centimeters is going to be one color. So because half will go in the window and half will be in a drawer. And then I split it into 9 rows, so each row is like 2.5 centimeters. And then just because I have a ton of this really thin washi tape, I use that to divide up over those lines, just because then it makes the painting a lot easier. I don't have to be super accurate about staying within lines, etc., by using the washi tape. And then at the end we'll peel it all off. I'll cut it all up on with my paper cutter. I'm also going to label the back of the paper so I know what each strip is, and the date that they're going into the window, so I can keep track of all of that. Alright, so the paints that I'm going to do today, I'm going to do my Kuretake watercolour set. I was given this as a present for my birthday last year from my mother-in-law, and I do really enjoy them, but it's a bit hit and miss in terms of their light fastness. I'm curious about how those will handle with when exposed to light. And I have some tube paints. I have a Van Gogh watercolor, little student watercolor set that I want to test, and some of my white night paints as well. I have a lot of white night paints, so I'm not going to do the whole lot today, but I'm going to do the ones that either are questionable with their light fastness, or I'm curious about whether or not they're light fast. And yeah, so that's going to be what we're going to do today. I have 3 more of these sheets, so we're going to fill those up, and then like I said, once they're dry, I'm going to label them up, peel off the masking tape or peel off the washi tape, and stick them in the window. So I hope you enjoy this video. Probably going to be mostly a voiceover and me just chatting a little bit and stuff with you guys from this point onwards, but I wanted to give you a bit of a heads up as to what we're doing. Alright, so I'm just going to label up this page. This is mostly going to be filled with the Kuretake watercolours, so I'm going to do that and then we can get going.
Alright, hi guys, so back with voiceover. I'm a little bit out of practice. It's been a while. I actually can't remember if I mentioned it at the beginning of this video, but I recorded this footage all right at the beginning of June. I believe it was the 2nd of June when I started the light fastness test. And yeah, so I've had this footage since then. It is now the 27th of July, and this video that I'm recording, this voiceover, and this video is probably not going to be published until the 2nd of August. So it will be exactly 2 months since I started actually doing this light fastness testing, before this video even comes out. So this test is already 2 months old. The paints, the swatches are still in my window, and I'm probably going to wait 1 more month, and then sometime in early September I will, around the 3-month mark, I will take the paints out of the window, the swatches that I've popped there, and we will do a comparison. So yeah, you guys won't have to wait too long to get the first set of results at 3 months and to see how these paints have fared. So yeah, like I said, these are the Kuretake paints that I am using, that I'm swatching here right now. I didn't swatch absolutely all of them. I wasn't too concerned about the metallics or like the black color and stuff like that. And now I'm moving on to some of my paints from my White Nights set. And I'm not swatching all of them. I'm just swatching the ones I'm either curious about or I know are somewhat problematic pigments. And here I opened it up to realize all my pans had gone a little bit all over the place. And so I'm just taking some time cleaning things up. These paints are fairly sticky, especially the ones where I've poured the pans from tubes. Those are definitely always remain somewhat tacky. I do need to reorganize this little palette, and I'm going to remove the magnetic strips and put a magnetic sheet in there instead, and I think that will hold the pans a little bit better than what I currently have going. They always seem to move. So even though these paints are super sticky and easy to re-wet, I do like just spraying my paints a little bit before I get going with them. It just makes everything that much easier. And here again, I'm just swatching some of the colors that I'm concerned about. Either I know that the pigments have questionable light fastness, or I just don't know much about those particular pigments and I just want to check and see. One of them in particular coming up in a bit is the green pigment. They call it Russian green in the White Nights range, and that is a PG8, and it's a really beautiful color, and I do love that shade of green, but it is a very it's notoriously not light fast, so I really wanted to give that a go and see how that looks. in a little while, hopefully. I think I've swatched it there already. Okay, so that's the White Nights paints. And then I can't remember what I did next. Oh, now I'm just doing some random tubes. I say random tubes. Tubes I've picked out from my collection that I want to check the light fastness on. Some are newer paints. Some I've had for a while. I think that last one I just swatched was Moonglow by Daniel Smith. That one again is notorious for having some light fastness issues because of the red pigment that's in that mix. And then I have a few various sort of like opera type colors that I wanted to test out, and reds. Reds again are fairly notorious for being questionable with regards to their light fastness, shall we say. So there's quite a few reds coming up here. And the palette that's open that you can see there is actually a Van Gogh watercolor palette. Van Gogh paints are the student brand by Royal Talens, who also do the Rembrandt paints, which are their artist grade paints. And so yeah, this is their 15 color set. It's actually a 12 plus 3 set. And there was originally a white in that top left corner where I actually replaced the white with dusk pink, just because I never use white with my watercolors anyway. So I thought I would replace that one. Otherwise, the rest of the palette is a really well balanced palette. It's actually really good for beginners. My daughter has used this one a lot before I got her own set, so a few of the pans are fairly empty by now. You can't really tell from this footage, but it is a really nice one to paint with, and it re-wets really easily, which is great for a student quality paint. And again, here I'm just swatching out all the colors that some of them I'm swatching out whole palettes, others I'm just doing some. All right, so here I finished all the swatching and I'm just peeling off all the bits of tape. Now you don't have to use tape to separate out the swatches. I just did because, well, I have an abundance of this thin tape that I don't really have a lot of use for. And also it just made the actual swatching quicker because I didn't have to worry too much about going over lines or the colors mixing if they touched by accident on the page or something like that. And the other thing I wanted to mention that I didn't do in this particular case, but going forward when I do light fastness tests, I will try to do, is to do like a gradient in the swatch, because I've heard that some colors, especially in the reds, they might be more light fast when used in like the mass tone, like in the stronger most pigmented version of that paint. But when you water it down, then the paints can be less light fast. There we go. I'm trying to get my words out. And you can see in a couple of places the tape has torn the paper. I will be honest, I wasn't as careful peeling off the tape as I probably should have been. Apologies, I keep stumbling over my words. It has been a while since I've done a voiceover, so I'm just getting back into the rhythm of things. Things got really crazy over June and July. We had a couple of trips in June, and then in July we've been having lots of work done on the house. So there's been lots of people in and out the house, and so there's not been a lot of opportunity to sit down and do these voiceovers or even filming, to be honest. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually labeling the backs of the pages for each column of the strips. So just keeping track of the dates that I painted the swatches, and also the brands that are in those swatches, if that makes sense. That way when they're up in the window from behind, I can see what is on each swatch. And then I've just gone back and I realized, because I'm going to be cutting each swatch in half to match up the numbers, that way when I do come to compare them later, I can be sure that I'm matching up the right strips together. And so now I'm just using a paper cutter and cutting down the lines, splitting the strips and keeping them organized. And then basically one half is going to go in a south-facing window that gets all the direct sun, and the other half is going to go in my bedside table in a drawer where it's going to be nice and dark and away from the sun. And like I said in in about a month from now, I'm going to take them out of the window and we're going to see what colours have faded, what colours haven't, etc. And I might do some more swatches or some other paints that I didn't do this time to add to the testing. All right, so here we are. We have a spare bedroom on our first floor with a nice south-facing window. And yeah, so I'm just taping up the swatches that are going to go into the window with some masking tape. Now, the masking tape I ended up using wasn't the best quality. It was quite old masking tape. And yeah, it took a lot of tape to end up getting it to stick. So lesson learned for next time, use newer masking tape. And we're coming up towards the end of the video now. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying what you're seeing, then please consider subscribing so you will see whenever I post new videos. Thank you again for joining me today, and I will see you guys very shortly. All right, take care and bye.